Hey, Rebecca, thanks again for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to
Yeah,
talk about this today.
yeah, me too. Awesome. Well, go ahead and give us just a rundown of your background. I know this is our second time having you. Let's go ahead and refresh everybody's memory.
Okay, so I'm a holistic health coach. I've been in health and wellness for over 15 years now, and I actually got started in massage. And when I was actually learning, or went back to college after I got my massage license, I went back to college to learn about business because I always wanted to have my own business. And during that time is when I learned Reiki. Because I just wanted to take all my normal business classes, but also I wanted to integrate a lot of holistic and nutrition and like health and wellness classes in there too. So I've been doing
Yeah.
it a long time, and that's really how I kind of got introduced to Reiki and have had my own kind of experiences with it. When I think I mentioned this last time, but I did work at a spa, and it was an Ayurvedic spa who was like really into the energy work and stuff. And I remember putting my hands on somebody's like heart and solar plexus chakra, and I just felt this like wave of heat up my arms, and it was like, whoa, what is that?
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe there's something to the stuff that I really was so skeptical about for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I'd love to hear like what exactly got you started in it. Was it that experience at this working at the spa or,
Yeah,
um,
it's so weird how it all kind of works out because I remember being in massage school and there was a woman behind me who was talking about energy work. And
mhm,
I'm like very science based and I feel like I need like the research to back everything up. And I'm like, if I can't see it, I don't believe it kind of thing. And I
mhm,
just really thought like, she's cuckoo. What is she talking about? This is crazy stuff. Plus, I was
yeah,
really young when I got into massage school. Like I said, I've been doing it a long time. Um, but then I did have that experience working at the spa, and it was weird because I went back to school about 6 months after I got my license. So I started my own business out of my home, and I just did
mhm,
massage therapy out of my home while I was going to college to learn business. And then I took the class because I'm like, well, you know what? I did have this experience. Is that what they're talking about? Because they kind of like talked a little bit about the energy there. And some of the
yeah,
practitioners that I worked with actually went to India and were trained in Ayurveda, like in the homeland.
yeah,
So that was really cool. So it definitely sparked my interest. And then once I got into it and I learned it, I remember I had like an epiphany on like one of the days after class. One of the girls in my class was taking me home because at the time I hadn't got my driver's license yet. Because if you remember, I have an eyesight condition. It's called Stargardt's. So I'm considered legally blind and I have to wear
mhm,
special glasses and stuff to drive and lots of special equipment just to do everyday life. It doesn't
yeah,
hold me back in any way and I can still see. It's just not as well as other people.
mhm,
And so I remember having this epiphany when we're driving down the highway, like, oh my God, this is why God made me the way I am. Like, this is why he made me not be able to see so I could feel better. You know what I mean? Like, not me feel like internally better, which it does, but like
yeah,
to actually like pick up and have better senses. And like, it just kind of like, I mentioned this before, where like our guides or our limitations, I mean, are our guides. So it kind of like carries us into who we're, are to become. And so it was just like this weird thing that like, oh my gosh, and it was just so cool. And the more I learned about it, the more I made connections with own things going on in my body that, the doctors couldn't pick up, that they say, oh, you're fine, but there was clearly an imbalance. And so it just, for me, kind of became the missing link in healthcare
yeah,
where it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's probably why I can't see. That's probably why I have IBS. That's probably why, I have hypothyroidism. That's why I have an autoimmune. That's why, like all these
yeah,
things that they're like, well, you're fine, nothing serious wrong, which thank God, but it's like,
mhm,
but there's something not right.
right. Yes. Yeah, definitely. And like I kind of I when I was in nursing school, I think we talked about this at some point. But like my first experience with Reiki, one of our professors was like had us rub our hands together and then like hold the energy between our hands and feel it. And I had this really strong sense of like two magnets repelling each other with my hands. And I was like, what the heck is this?
Yes.
But like she seemed a little bit cuckoo too. So I was like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, because it's so hard. Like when you can't like explain it, or it's like it's just a feeling and you can't, it's not like tactile,
Yes.
which is interesting because honestly, it is tactile if you become in tune with it and you become like sensitive to it, then you can really feel it and you're like, what are these pulsing sensations that I'm feeling now? Or what's this heat that I'm feeling, or this vibration, or like, what's that light that I see, you know?
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, okay, there is something to it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very subjective.
Yeah,
It's not something we can really measure with what we currently have.
exactly.
I think there's probably some kind of scientific explanation behind it, and we just don't know what that is yet.
Yes.
um,
I mean,
yeah.
I feel like the very basis of everything in life is energy. I mean, if you
Hmm.
go back to like what we're made of, our atoms, you know, that's energy. Like that, we can't explain why exactly the protons and neutrons, electrons, and all of them, like why exactly they do or how they actually get to where their points are. It's just that like this attracts this and this attracts that and this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like the very like minimal, like basic level, it is energy, but then from there, it's like, well, it kind of forget about that part, you know, that like there is a scientific base, but it's hard to explain and to like really put your finger. I mean, I can't even explain it in depth,
Hmm.
you know, it's just like I get it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. It's a feeling.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about just like what Reiki's done for you, and what it's been able to do for some of your clients.
Okay, so first let me say like Reiki, first off, like the name Reiki is a Japanese term that means universal life force energy. There's also Chi, like CHI, that is you know, how the Chinese describe energy. It's just one culture's way of describing energy, but it's like everywhere. And
Hmm.
people, you want to learn it. I mean, you can learn it to be in tune with it, but you don't have to. Like everyone is born with this ability to hone into it, but when you get attuned, when you take the courses, then you just become more sensitive to it.
Hmm.
But it's not something that when you learn it, you just all of a sudden like have this thing. It's like you've always had it.
Yeah.
And something to really differentiate and make sure people understand is that when you're doing energy work or energy healing, this is, you know, again, the universal life force energy, which is just like the air we breathe. It is universal. No one owns it. It's not my energy going into you. It's not, I'm not taking your energy. There is a such thing as like energy transference. So you definitely want to be, you know, in a good state of mind when you are practicing Reiki, and as much as you can when you're receiving Reiki. But sometimes when you're receiving Reiki, you're in a state of mind that's like, oh, this is why I'm getting Reiki, because I'm stressed out or I'm anxiety ridden or I got these things going on, you know? So, and so I do want that to be clear that it's not like when I'm doing it, I'm not giving you my energy and I'm not taking your energy. Which, and if we have time, I have like a couple of tips about how people can use or use Reiki themselves without even like learning it or taking a class and still make it like helpful for them.
Yeah.
But for me, so I've I have used it personally for sleep, which is something I can share in a little bit. For sleep, just helping like deal with anxiety, helping just to have an understanding of what's really going on in my body. So with Reiki and with energy, we learn about chakras, which are the energy centers of the body. So each chakra is kind of like a manager, if you will, of each kind of section of the body. So when I'm doing research on it and I'm finding things, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense because, you know, my throat, for instance, I can say like I have a thyroid condition, so hypothyroidism, which I was actually diagnosed with after I was pregnant. I didn't have any problems before. I always knew like I had a slower metabolism, but I guess it really developed and became, you know, that clinical level or it's like subclinical, but you know, it kind of reached over that threshold of the numbers that's like, yeah, you have this actual condition and you need medication to treat it. But when I'm learning about it, so in the throat chakra, that is where your thyroid is located, right here in your throat. And the throat chakra has a lot to do with your voice, the way you express yourself. Also, which is interesting, I really like to talk, but as a kid, I was also or always stifled, like not only by my parents, but at school, it's like, don't talk. You know how many demerits I got for talking in class? It's like so many. So, like little things like that, that over time create this energy inside of you that I feel like has an impact in your health. I mean, there's so much that's like just emotional that gets stored inside of our body if we're not processing it right. And it can create sort of like these illnesses and diseases and such. So when I'm also learning about, well, what can I do about that, and learning like actually writing and using my voice, like what I'm doing right now, like just talking to you and sharing this information is like my, my throat chakra is in heaven right now. But it's also like communicating, not just verbally, but through work, like through like writing, being creative, expressing yourself in a way, maybe through how you dress, or actually just like really living your authentic self, not trying to be what other people want you to be. Also worthiness comes into that, things just that as a woman, so many women have hypothyroidism, and it's like some of the research that I've done has really come down to the worthiness, and that, as women, we're a lot of times just stifled in general. Like we're still having, the gap in like equality with, being paid, and kind of like what our roles are. Even now in COVID, I mean, the stuff that I've read has really shown that the woman is the one still who is like having to leave her job. Even myself, I had to cut my hours to half the part-time so I could take care of my daughter, and that just really helped, worked out for my family, not that my husband made me do this or anything, but it's just kind of I ended up having to like take that on, I guess. So it's just that we get a lot of I don't know, we get a lot of the brunt work of stuff.
Yeah.
And it can stifle us, in a way, if we're not able to then do what we really want to do in some way.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, they're like mining gems out of a block of something in the other room.
Oh, I don't even hear it. I
Okay.
put my dog on my bed. I'm like, gave him a treat. Like, you stay in there. I told Taylor, like, she's at school right now downstairs, she's actually learning virtually right now. So,
Yeah.
Mom,
All
like,
right. Yeah, I was just letting you know that's what's going on. Yeah. So do you think like when we're stifling ourselves or allowing other things to stifle us, would you say that's like blocking the natural flow of energy and it's causing these issues?
yes, absolutely. And that's what happens, I think, is that it just gets trapped. So we can't control everything. I mean, and what's going on, especially right now, like I'm more than happy to take on what I'm doing with my daughter. In fact, I actually, in March just started coaching. Like I just started that this year. I've been wanting to do it, or no, technically 2020, but I've been wanting to do it for such a long time, and it just never like worked out right. And again, where I feel like this is one of his other limitations that's actually guided me again into what I really want to do, that I've been thinking about for over 10 years of doing, So processing it, I think, is the most important thing. And maybe you can't, change like what I'm doing is like completely change, not really completely. I'm just adding on to what I'm doing basically. But you have to process the emotions and whatever it is. So like a lot of times when things have happened in our past, when they're just happening to us on a daily basis, we try to be like, oh, it doesn't matter, or like, let's just block that out. I don't even want to remember, instead of just actually feeling it and saying like, that really sucked. I really feel such and such, whatever the feeling is, or, and then allowing that to go. Because one of the laws of physics is that energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be like transferred. So those emotions and those thoughts are energy. And so when we don't allow ourselves to fully feel them and let them go, then they become illness in our body ultimately. And like, it's one thing to like, you want to allow yourself to feel it, but you don't want to dwell in it. Give yourself the appropriate time to like grieve it, if you will. And like, talk, not us, but people know about the grieving process. So there's a process that you go through, and the same thing with emotions. And basically with the emotion, whatever emotion it is, feel it. Okay. Someone, said something mean to me, and it's like, I had an experience recently actually where a family member said something, and it just brought up all these emotions. And I'm like, I thought I was over that, And the truth is, we never really get over anything. Like this idea of closure, I think, just doesn't exist. But every time that something comes up it just means that there's still some little bit of peace in it. And even no matter how much therapy you went through or how much you're working on it, it's always going to be a process. It's like exercise. You can't just exercise once and think that you're going to be healthy. You can't just eat healthy meals one time and think you're going to be healthy. Likewise, if you have sugar once, it's not going to damage your body either. It's like everything is about this cumulative effect, and like this process of really learning how to live like that, really a holistic, healthy lifestyle. But, I totally lost my train of thought there. About the energy.
Yeah.
It's like went off.
No, that's fine. We're talking about it being kind of blocked. And
Yes.
then, yeah. So it sounds like just a process and release.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this thing that came up with me, and I did, I just was like, yeah, that really hurts. I can't believe this person, they don't even realize what they said probably, but it struck that chord in me, and I just let myself cry. And I just like fully just let myself cry, and then I felt better. Because what I have done in the past, like younger days, is like just try to be like, I'm strong, it doesn't matter, nothing bothers me, it doesn't hurt me, I'm totally over it, but really I never like felt what it felt like. And so
Hmm.
that energy just kind of stays inside of you
Yeah.
rather than like coming up, because once it gets in you, you got to get it out of you, through
Right.
crying, through writing, exercising, laughter, all kinds of things. There's basically just got to just release it in some way, even just mentally imagining it releasing, like exiting your body, is a good enough thing, like visualization and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and a lot of us, I think we just tend to repress it, like, oh, I shouldn't feel like that, it's bringing up something that happened 20 years ago and whatever. But yeah, it's really
Yeah.
beneficial to release it. And then are
Yeah.
you familiar with Ho'oponopono?
No.
No, okay. So I think it's I'm probably gonna like horribly simplify this, but it's like uh it's Hawaiian.
Okay.
Basically it's like a prayer where you're saying, like, you're focusing on something, and you say, oh, what is it? It's like, I'm sorry, thank you, I forgive you, I love you, and then you just kind of repeat that until you feel like you can release it. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so it's something I've done before, and it's been really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, everything that comes in, there's some reason, there's something to learn from it, whether it just makes you a better person in general, or there's something that as it comes up, you're like, oh, this was a piece of that I didn't realize was still bothering me or whatever. So thank you for not bringing that to me. But now you may go, even when I've done Reiki and I'm like, doing like the therapy work of Reiki, like on a client, I will get like pains where they're feeling their pain, and in way to like kind of let me know where to go with them. And then I'm like, and actually this happens during massage too, it's like really weird, but then I'm like, okay, thank you for telling me, now you may go, because I don't want to then like keep that headache or whatever that pain is that I was just feeling, because it's there for a reason to show me something. And then it's like, okay, bye bye. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's kind of like, thank you for being there, and then it's kind of twofold. You can like, I didn't know that was there, and now you can deal with it, whereas before you,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And so um I have yet to have my first Reiki session. I'm actually going to this month.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited about it. But what would you um what would you say to people who are just starting to look into this and going to start working on this for themselves?
My first suggestion would be to find one resource and one resource only to get a good foundation. So whether it's a book, like best thing to do would get a book, go to the actual bookstore, pick up all the books, wash your hands before you touch them all, wash your hands afterwards, but pick up each book and really kind of flip through it. Maybe it's a picture that you like in the book, maybe there's just a feeling that you get, because this is like the first step to really learning that intuition and being connected with your energy. And so to find some resource, or it could be online. If you go to different websites and like there's one that you're just like, I don't know why this is speaking to me, but it's speaking to me, save that on your browser. And that is your go-to resource while you're developing just a basic understanding. And I do that because there are a lot of overlapping things depending on which book or resource that you get. Because with the energy shock centers, like for instance, the like digestive system is located in your solar plexus and your sacral chakra. So there's a lot of overlap in there. So it's about finding a resource that you have that works, or that resonates with you, and then learning about that and look through it. Say, what condition do you have? What are you experiencing? Read through it and find which chakra that belongs to. And then read about that chakra. See if there's any like emotional components to it that you're like, yeah, I do feel that way. Yeah, I do actually have stress. Yeah, I don't feel this way, or maybe I have a hard time with this. And then in all these books, there's resources too on like what to do about it. And there'll be like different exercises and things that you can do. So that's a great place to start, is to like build like just your foundation of understanding what energy is, how it works in your body, how it plays out, like what its purpose is, and what maybe kind of ailments can happen, and just see if you can play around with that and start making yourself feel better. When it comes to like, there's a couple things, like sleep and anxiety, I basically have the same tip for, which is to like, especially at night before bed. So it's a great time, or in the morning. It kind of depends. Sometimes you'll wake up with anxiety. Some people can't go to sleep because of anxiety. So it's kind of the same thing, where I would place one hand on your chest and one hand on your stomach, and just breathe in, feel the heat from your hands. And as you do this, you will be more in tune with that energy. And you just take really deep breaths. Before you know it, you're asleep. Before you know it, your anxiety is subsided, because actually breathing too, there's scientific research to back this one up, of deep breathing does release anxiety. But it just helps you to kind of get in tune with what that's feeling and see what comes up. And then something else I hear a lot of people who are like, I'm empathic, and so I can't be in these situations because I'll pick up people's energy. Do you ever hear that? Like
Yes.
people are
Yeah.
like concerned about that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's really just your ego. And not your ego is a negative. Your ego is just part of your part of you. It's never going to be gone. You just have to kind of manage it sometimes. And it's actually could be a good part of you, but when it becomes too much, then you think that you are in control of everything, and you're not. In that, the energy, like I mentioned earlier, there is potential for energy transference. But again, you can use the technique of thank you and release it if you pick something up. But what I do this at the end of my Reiki sessions, is I pretend that I have a paintbrush. And so I like swirl around in my hand and kind of create the energy flow in my hand. And then I will brush, like I'm painting this white light, and it's almost like a bodysuit that is mesh. So it's breathable. So you're protected by this white light, but it's also breathable to where you can still have a conversation with someone. You can have sympathy for someone. You can feel, you don't have to feel what they're feeling, but you can understand them. You can be there to talk to them. You can interact with people in like maybe a situation that's like a little bit chaotic, and still keep yourself grounded and know that like none of that's going to bother you. It's more of an intention. It's like when you think you have control over everybody and how they are, and you're afraid of like anything happening, that's just more of an emotional thing. So you have to kind of cut that with just setting an intention, and sometimes visualizing this like white light bodysuit, if you will, that's mesh and breathable, to where you can still be there for someone, but you will not be picking up any of their stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've heard of visualization techniques to kind of help put up almost like a shield,
Yeah.
to help separate that kind of I don't know if it would be an exchange of emotion or energy, or just the perception of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard that can really help a lot of people.
I mean, we interact with the energy every day. It's like breathing. We breathe the same air. And so you're definitely flowing through other people's energy, just like yours. So it's the same thing. As it's coming in, you have to let it out. So like you just have to be in that state of flow and just kind of allow things to come and go as they are. I have experienced Reiki sometimes. I used to get it every week, actually. Like, so even though I can do it to myself, I like getting it from other people as well. But I've had experiences where I've had some people who want to like open up your heart chakra, but then shut it to protect you. And I'm like, no, you know that sometimes the problem is that right there, is that your heart is not open. You're not wanting to be connected to other people as a fear that they're going to do something to you. But again, that's more of the ego self, not the true self, of where you feel like you are in control of everything and everyone. So I think it's good to be open, but also boundaries. We talked about boundaries last time, like setting boundaries. And maybe there are certain situations that you are going to avoid because it's too much or whatever, especially if it's like traumatic kind of things, like you're the best judge for those situations, but don't be afraid to maybe go to the grocery store because you're afraid of all the energy you're going to pick up from people.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that you made that distinction about the ego. It's like this, it's like the conscious part of us, and that we can't necessarily control everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it's like we also don't want to think of ourselves as like a victim, like, oh, I can't control things, so I just, this just has to happen or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's listening to like your true self. There's like the ego self, and there's like your true self, like capital S, which is really like your higher power. It could be God if you wish. It could be the universal power that lives inside of us, but like kind of like that guiding light. So there's two, and they both serve their purpose. Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about this, and he's got many books on it. And I have to reread them and reread them and reread them to fully comprehend everything. But he's like the guru on the ego, I think. And so if anyone's interested in like searching him and like to really get some more information on that, would be helpful.
I think I literally just downloaded one of his books to read soon.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's so awesome. It's like sometimes you're just not ready for it, and so that's why I think. And every time any book too, like I feel like there's something to pick up from it every single time that you read it. And not every single thing in the book is something that's going to be beneficial to you, but there's going to be something, and like you just always pick up something different and have a deeper understanding of it.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And so like for people who want to get started with Reiki, and maybe they can't go for weekly sessions,
Mm-hmm.
but is there anything they should do to like prepare for their first session, and then like any kind of like energetic hygiene they should be doing in between, or how would you guide them on that?
Mm-hmm. So, like right before a session, you do want to come in, hydrated, flushed, have your body basically primed to flow energy. Energy actually does flow in water. So having that flushing system, already kind of your flushing system primed would be really helpful. Not coming in with like a full tummy, but also not coming in hungry. So you are relaxed and you're able um, to be fully present there without any like pains or discomfort. And then really to just be open to whatever happens. Don't go in with any sort of judgment, but you can go in with an intention, of like, I would like from this session to feel more at peace with such and such, whatever it is, or I would like after this session to have this pain, released or relieved or whatever it is. So you can have an intention. And then honestly, mindfulness is like the biggest thing, is just to be present in every moment. There isn't anything like special. There's a lot of like, you can find research, or not research, but like articles and resources online for like different stones to have, different like crystals and things like that can be helpful. Some people think that might be more of a placebo effect. It just kind of depends. I personally really like hematite. I have like just like, it's not even a crystal, it's just a stone that I have, and I have earrings. So they're not in right now, but I have two different sets of earrings that like, if I know I'm going into a situation where it might be like negative or whatever, or if I'm concerned about it, or if I'm like have anxiety about it, it kind of is like a protector. So it's supposed to absorb any negative energy. So they can look into stuff like that to do on a daily basis, or, throughout the time. And then, grounding was another thing I just thought of, is like, have you heard of earthing or grounding?
Yes. Yeah. Like, isn't earthing like when you physically go out into nature to be more grounded?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you just like bare feet on the earth, and it's like 10 minutes. And there's actually science research to back this up, of how it like equalizes or neutralizes the electrons in your body, or some science about it. I can't explain all of it, because I'm the type, like, I pick things up, I get it, and then I'm like, okay, I don't remember all the details of it, but like I get it. And but there's also some like devices, so you can look for like grounding shoes. There's like grounding mattress pads. Which I personally don't use them. I'm not opposed to it. I just haven't got that far. I think it just depends, like, if you need the help. Do
Yeah.
you really need the support in doing that, or can you do that on your own? So it kind of, I feel like we all know what's best for us, and we all have the ability to get there on our own without all these special devices and things, but they could be, helpful.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Like we have, like in our yard, we can't really like go out in it. It's got like we're renting, and there's like a plastic tarp underneath, and then there's like rocks on top. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, and you can still, I mean, it's always like, you hear the best way to do something. It's like the experts will tell you exactly how to do it. or like the best way, but doesn't mean it's the only way. So you could still like, even like walking barefoot on like concrete, there's earth under there somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And so you will still get it. It's not like the rocks or that tarp completely take away anything from the earth, or there would not be earth there.
Okay.
Maybe some things won't grow, but you could still do that, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
or even like honestly, if you want dirt, you can put dirt into like one of those Tupperware buckets, or like, you know, like the dollar store have those like wash bins. You can
Mm-hmm.
seriously put potting soil in that, and just earth in your house or on your back porch or whatever. So um this is something else that's actually good for the root chakra, which is playing in the dirt. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the research says about like your hands being in dirt when it comes to the same grounding effects, but I do know on like the chakra level and energetic level, when anytime you're playing in dirt, like your hands are in dirt, you are grounding yourself in the root chakra. So
Yeah.
it's that same kind of thing. You can just like, you know, by watering your plants and touching your plants every day, or just, you know, moving the soil around, or literally just like going out and gardening and digging up things, or whatever, you know, but
Yeah.
there are ways to do it.
Okay. Yeah. And like just thinking like another sense of grounding is like if you think of electricity, you're literally like, you know, touching, you know, like if you think about grounding a building or something, it's this big, you know, like a lightning rod on top, and then it goes into the earth to like help the energy pass through, rather than cause damage to the building.
Yes.
So I that's kind of how I'm thinking about this. And so I guess maybe it wouldn't necessarily matter which part of your body is touching the earth. But
Yeah.
yeah.
That's actually a great like analogy. I really thought of that myself, but that's really great because that's what we're talking about. It's like allowing
Mm-hmm.
it to come in but not affect you,
Yes.
right? Not make damage or do anything. So that's where grounding really comes in. And it's just like in being present, being mindful, being realistic, you know, being patient, you know. So it's not always about let me just go do this thing. It's like how can I practice that too in my daily life of just like accepting things as they are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not trying to rush anything. I mean, we have deadlines, sure. We have to like work a little harder at times, but it's like just to be more in flow than trying to push all the time. Being
Mm-hmm.
realistic, patient, like I said, just more mindful.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So let's see what else. Trying to think of a question.
It
It's so fascinating. Um,
is.
yeah. Um, let's see. Do you have any other tips as to just like what people can kind of do on their own, like once they've started reading about it, um, what they can do to kind of maintain a healthy energy balance?
You know, start implementing what they've learned, because a lot of times we will just research and not do anything with what we've learned. So in order to see if it works, you know, and also to see, I don't know, for me it's like proof in the pudding of like, okay, well I read this, but is this really true, you know? So let's put some things in action. Does that make me feel better? And I don't know if we'll ever be able to completely cure our ailments, you know, and like completely heal the thyroid. But what I think, because for myself, I tried to do that a lot where I was like, I just want to heal it. And I know my body is capable of healing, but sometimes it's more about managing it. It's like stress. You're not going to get rid of all your stress. It's like, how can I manage it and allow it not to get worse? How can I learn from this? You know, I think I mentioned that before about like IBS and stuff where it was like, this is my body's way of making me eat healthier. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't have this condition, maybe I wouldn't have the need or desire to eat healthier. Like people who are just like naturally really skinny and they're like the skinny fat and they eat McDonald's like every day, all day, and never gain a pound. It's like, you know, like what's going on in their body. And so it's like if they would be affected by that, you know, on a weight basis, maybe they wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? But just implementing whatever it is that they've learned, and practicing mindfulness, practicing being patient and allowing things to flow, and really start to pick up the sensations. You know, you ever walk out of your house and you're like, I'm forgetting something, I know I am. You're like, nope, check, I got everything. You get to work and you're like, nope, left my iPad at home. it's kind of like, okay, when you have these feelings, then like go back inside and see, maybe something will jog your brain, you know? So like those little cues and stuff that help we become more in tune with our bodies and in tune with the energy of everything. I don't think there's any certain like magic pill or anything. It's more of just like a daily practice of being in flow, you know? Being
Yeah.
open to those sensations and those feelings. And like I mentioned, you know, about putting your hand on your heart chakra and your stomach, basically over your chest and over your stomach, and just feeling the energy flow there. That's a really good one, because you'll be able to feel things that you're like maybe not felt before. You can feel like vibrations and heat sensations, and even like um not palpitations, but like a pinging. Sometimes like between your hands, you can feel like the energy ping back, and like it's like feels like just like a little nudge on your hand or something that you will feel. So especially if you have your hands like maybe over your head or something. And the interesting thing is that we do this stuff naturally. Like when we fall down, we bump our knee or something, we go to grab it initially. We have a headache. What do? We like put our hand over our forehead, and we're trying to like already get there. It's so inherent in us, but because of just technology and just the day-to-day grind, we have lost that connection to ourselves, which is sometimes why I do think that maybe some things will never be completely healed, because it's just the life we live in. And you can't be meditating all day long because we got dishes to do, we have kids to raise, we have, you know, jobs, we have things to do. We're surrounded by a lot of noise when it comes to technology. So I think we're just having to learn how to manage it and still stay grounded and at peace with everything, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then like when you say, you know, like practice it, we're reading, we're going to put it into practice.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're not going to try it once and be like, oh, well, this doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I would go like at least at the very minimum, like 2 weeks consistent to once you start to see something, and then do it for like up to 90 days. Like I even do this with my coaching clients when it comes to them. If they are trying to, like a lot of people I work with are trying to just lose weight and get healthy and create like a balanced lifestyle. So we'll have a plan. It's like, we'll stick to this plan for 2 weeks. We have to see there will be some sort of change in 2 weeks, because sometimes we do it, yeah, that one time or that one week, nothing happens, and then we're like, well, this doesn't work. It's like, no, it's a cumulative effect. You did not gain weight, you did not become stressed out, you did not create this disease inside of you overnight, and it's going to take some time. And also it's seeing what things, you know, say it's like the thyroid, for instance, journaling every day. Are you going to be able to journal every day for the rest of your life? No. Like for me, I'm like, the only thing I can really do every day is eat, because like we have to eat or we'll die. You know, I know it's just not possible to do that every single day. But when you're starting out, you may be doing it more often. And then you get to a point of like, how can I fit this into my life on a regular basis? And maybe that's part of my planning when I sit down to plan my week on Sunday, and then I will implement, you know, my journaling or whatever it is. Say it's the root chakra and you're like, I really need help with the grounding. So you could try to be out in the dirt every single day. And then it comes to a point like, you know what, I pick my weeds on Saturday, you know, and so it'd be a thing where over time, like you might start doing it a lot more, but then over time, you just figure out a way to create this. Because whatever we're doing now, we're going to be doing kind of forever, you know. And there's little things that's not like, you were already going to weed anyway, so why not have intention with you weeding, that is to become grounded, and to maybe as you're weeding, you know, pick out the negative thoughts or whatever it is that's going on. Like, I'm weeding this from the earth in my body. There's so much, like, the intention is so huge, and like visualization is huge, and just being present and like just being in the moment, which is really difficult. I mean, I struggled with that when Taylor was a baby, like being in the tub, or like maybe she was a toddler, you know, and I'm sitting in there. I don't really have to do a lot with her. I'm just playing with her. But I felt sometimes where I was just like off in my head thinking about work or thinking about something else. So it's a practice where I had to like, what? Nope, this Barbie's going down the slide, Rebecca. Like, you know, like be in that moment of like what's going on. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think with how distracted most people are, just, you know, we're in this habit of being really distracted. It's hard to kind of come back to a state of being present, and it's definitely a practice.
Right.
You don't get good at it overnight.
Exactly. And if you can't do it every day, it's okay. Just don't stop. Like having some sort of consistency is what really matters, you know? Because sometimes even doing that, if you're like, I can't journal every day, you know, maybe 3 times a day, you're not still, that's still going to be more than what you would have to do once you kind of get through what you're going through and feeling it. And then you have these tools. Another book I really like is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And the biggest takeaway, since I've read it twice now, and I want to read it again because I pick up so much different like things afterwards. But he says to look at like things, your thoughts as like a movie, and like allow them to just pass. So two takeaways. So every day we're distracted by these thoughts, whether it's emotion or thought or thinking about work. It's like, don't be mad. Like, oh, I'm taking a bath, or like, you know, I'm giving my daughter a bath. Why can't I stop thinking about work? You know, like, don't be mad about, don't judge it. Be like, oh, let it go, and then get back to the Barbie going down the slide, you know? And then also, he talks about every single time that you do have an emotion come up or something that come up, like I mentioned earlier, where like, you know, my family member say something to me that really like opened up this wound that I thought was closed, but then I realized it's never going to be completely closed. And every time it comes up, it's my opportunity to release it. So it's not like, oh, it come up and I'd be like, oh, I'm still not over this. Gosh, why can't I? What is wrong with me? Like I thought you know, were strong. No, it's like, oh, there's still a little piece in there. Okay, I feel it. Yeah, that really sucks. This is it. And you also get new insight every single time something comes up, but then you just release that emotion, you know, release that energy so then it can not hurt you anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and let's see. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
You know, I just want like people to know that Reiki is already inside of you, and
Mhm.
and it's just a name for energy. You know, all these different cultures, like even what you're talking about with Hawaii, you know, things that they do in India with Ayurveda, things that go on in Chinese medicine, all this stuff, and really even all of our religions, it's all for the same purpose. It's just talked about in a different way, you know?
Yeah,
So it's, I don't want people to get too hung up on the label or the language of it. Just know that it's in you, you have access to it, and it is there to serve you and to keep you alive. It's what keeps everything alive, you know? And that energy can get blocked and get stored inside of you when you don't allow it to release. And doing these practices like, for instance, gardening or journaling or whatever it is, exercise for different chakras, which if people actually find the resource, you'll find different like exercises and things for each chakra that you could do. There will be like suggestions and stuff. There's even, this is another subject, but there's even foods. So for your root chakra, for instance, there are, that's like where protein and meats and root vegetables support the root chakra. Then for your sacral chakra, which is right above that, around your belly button, liquids, which you can remember that because your urinary tract and your bladder is in, you know, that part of your body. And it makes sense because it's like, well, liquids keep the flow going, and that keeps, you know, my flow going, and such like that. And then for the solar plexus, it's vegetables, which it's most of your digestive system is in there, the breaking down, especially like your stomach and such, and the breaking down part of your small intestine, and technically part of your large intestine too, but is in the solar plexus. And so the vegetables have lots of enzymes and nutrients to help digest food. Like they're being digested, but they also digest other things. And so, and then with your, oh, I think I just got that mixed up. No. With your heart chakra, it's vegetables. Okay. So back that up. Heart chakra is vegetables. Actually, solar plexus is like starches, which now that I'm thinking about it, one of the things in your solar plexus is, so I already mentioned everything is about emotion, but your solar plexus is actually how you digest emotions, thus the digestive system. But which honestly, vegetables are good for all of it anyway. Like, let's be real about that. But the starches also like secrete serotonin, like carbohydrates and stuff create serotonin from your brain, which is like that feel good hormone. And so it can just help to balance the emotions that way. Also, orange vegetables, so, or yellow vegetables. And honestly, each chakra, oh my, we have to back up because the root chakra is red. So any red vegetables, root vegetables, meats, the sacral chakra is yellow. So any or orange, I mean, any orange vegetables or fruits. And then with the sacral plexus, that's yellow, fruits and vegetables. And then your heart chakra is green. Actually, there's pink too. And this is the thing, if you research, sometimes you'll find it's green and it's pink. It usually goes with the rainbow, the Roy G. Biv. And then, but vegetables for your heart. And then your throat chakra is for fruit. And that is kind of like a bluish color. And then the third eye, this one's kind of interesting because that's indigo and it's like this dark blue. And that is hallucinogenic things because it like opens your third eye to other things, which I don't recommend. You know, I mean, I guess do what you want to do. But then the crown chakra, which is like this violet, even white color, goldish, is your connection to a higher power. And the interesting thing about this one is they recommend fasting for that. Which, if you know anything about a lot of religions, there's fasting in like every single religion because they feel like when you fast, it's like your penance maybe or whatever, you know. So it's just really interesting. Each chakra I mean, they even have different musical notes, you know, so there's different ways to stimulate it. There's different activities to do, foods, all sorts of things. But I definitely recommend finding one resource and just like sticking with that one resource until you get a good idea about the energy centers and Reiki itself. Because again, Reiki is just the Japanese form. You can find it in China, Hawaii, India, all kinds of places.
Yeah. And there's definitely these different world views across the world about explaining energy and, you know, beliefs and things. It's really fascinating that it's present there. I think that's kind of proof that there's absolutely something to it.
I've heard too where people are like, well, is it Eastern or Western? I'm like, it's universal.
Yes.
Like it isn't one or the other. Like we need to quit trying to divide ourselves and think the way I do energy work is better than the way you do energy work, because it's not. Because if you are thinking what I do is better, your ego is so out of whack right now that you're not even going to be able to help somebody. Because you're so in it for yourself rather than for the person on the table, you know. So it's like if someone is interested in learning about Reiki, I would definitely go with someone who is more have an open mind and looks at Reiki not just one view and can give you a protocol. Sure, there's a protocol like anything that we're learning. We learn a system at first and then we get to develop our own system and way of doing it. So I would learn from someone who is willing and thinks there is an options for how you do it, you know?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And then, you know, since this is like a very individual thing for both us and people you work with, you know, it's something where I think that's where the practice comes in. And then you can kind of look at different other protocols or ways of looking at things and figure out which one feels the best.
Exactly. Because there's, you know, there's like, what's that saying? You know, there's so many ways to skin a cat or whatever.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways of getting in there. What really works well for you? What resonates best with you? And part of that, like learning that, is also part of the practice of being in tune with your energy and being in tune with your emotions and your feelings and your thoughts.
Yes.
So it all like ties in together. It's so cool.
Yeah, it really is. For sure. So let's see. Are there any kind of practices you do so basically just like maintenance? Do you just kind of feel into like what's going on and then kind of address things as they come up? Or is there anything else you recommend for maintenance?
Well, it depends on what's really going on. So for instance, like with me and having a thyroid condition, I make sure that I do spend time writing. You know, journaling could be just like having journal prompts or just like letting out like a brain dump or whatever. Or if there is something that comes up, allowing yourself to feel that, and you can write it out or you can like visualize it to be released. But I know like that's something that I'm going to be dealing with probably forever. Like I'm just at the point where I'm like, it's okay because it's teaching me other things. And through the process, it's like you never arrive at some point, you know? So the maintenance will be practice all these all these different things, see what really resonates with you, what also fits into your lifestyle, because everything can be different depending on each person, you know? So it just really depends on what is going on with you and figuring out a way to where you can fit that into your lifestyle without it being a burden or an extra stress.
Yeah.
You know, and getting Reiki from a practitioner, I mean, monthly, I would say would be amazing. You know, someone that you resonate with, like I would try to talk to them on the phone. If you can book an appointment online, you know, if you feel like that feels good to you, then definitely do that. But I think that's really helpful. Again, because we're just so inundated with so much stuff around us that sometimes that's our reminder. Like to get the work is our reminder to become more aware of our emotions and feelings and sensations. It's kind of like meditation for your body. I feel the same way with massage. It's like allows you to get this awareness of what's really going on in your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to add about Reiki or, you know, anything along those lines?
Just the biggest thing is to just know that it's not any one person's. The energy is universal and it can be accessed by anyone at any time. And it's always there for giving life. So when you have something that's feeling like negative emotions, that's not giving you life. So you have to process that and release that. So then the energy can flow, because the natural flow of energy is all about making your body work, making things in life work. You know, even the plants, how they grow is energy, you know?
Yeah. Awesome. All right. And where can everybody find you?
The best place probably is Instagram. I'm on there most often. It's Rebecca Geiger Holistics. And then if people are in Cincinnati, karmawellnessstudio.com. There's a little bit of information there about coaching, but mostly reaching out to me on Instagram is like the best way to do that.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me again, Rebecca.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, definitely. I love this so much. I think it's so fascinating.
It is.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to getting more into it myself.
Yes, and I hope you enjoy your session. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Talk to you
Bye.
later.